I believe most of you are online now. I would like to say good evening and thank you for joining us for the Rady's third master class of this series of this year. Tonight, you're going to meet Dr. Ayelet Gneezy, who spent her career studying decisions studying decisions people make that positively affect others and themselves, and then why they don't make those kind of decisions. And more specifically, she studies the choices people make in the realm of charitable giving, environmental sustainability, and life and death health-related decisions. She regularly works with nonprofits and corporations to sort of continue to test her theories and gather more research in the wild, if you will. And I will introduce her shortly, but I'm going to introduce myself and my colleague right now. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christina Cook. I'm the Associate Director of Graduate Admissions here. I deal primarily now with just the Flex Executive Weekend Group, and my colleague, Sophia Palomino, shares the same title, and she works primarily with the Flex Evening. And you have our information right now, so please write it down. We'd love to chat with you after, or anytime. If you have any questions, this is what we're here for. I want to talk briefly about the intent of the SIP session. For some of you that have not been, you probably know this spiel, but the SIP session really is a chance to meet kind of like important figures in your Rady experience that you wouldn't otherwise have a chance to meet in the admissions process. This event will last approximately 45 to 50 minutes. It is a very interactive session, so please be prepared to get involved, ask questions, provide input. You can do that via the chat, or you can just raise your hand virtually and actually talk, which we love, because we also love to see faces. So if you're able to take yourself off the black screen and show your face, we'd appreciate it. However, there is no pressure there. I'm sure you know where I'm coming. So you came here to learn a little bit more about the Rady, about us and Rady. So I'm going to share a little bit about us and what we consider the Rady advantage. So while at Rady, you're going to develop analytical skills and technical skills that most employers are really want and need. And more so, you're going to feel confident with those skills when you leave. And I can attest, I know plenty of people that have an MBA that have spent 2 years studying and still leave and are not comfortable with the technical skills. And that is never a good feeling when you're being asked what the ROI is of your decision. So that's one thing you will definitely get here at Rady. You'll feel confident. You're going to learn that data-driven decisions are used in just about every functional discipline within an organization. And some of you have heard me say this before, but we're very collaborative. Oftentimes great ideas are germinated from a variety of perspectives and approaches to solving problems, and we're no different there. You really can't stay, and I'm a swimmer, so I'm going to use this analogy. You can't stay in your lane 100% of the time and really come through with breakthrough ideas. Finally, we're very proud to be ranked 4th in learning and entrepreneurship by this year's Bloomberg Business Week. There we go. And the reason why we are ranked number 4 in learning is 100% because of our amazing faculty. Not only are they known globally and nationally for their research, they're dedicated instructors who genuinely care about your learning outcomes. They really want you to understand how to think critically and use data to make decisions that ultimately positively affect, hopefully, your life. A little more specifics here about our program. These are the 3 MBA programs that we have here at Rady. All of them require 92 units. You all take the same core and have access to all of the same electives. The Flex Evening program is what we consider our part-time program. You take 2 classes a quarter, and each of those you take 2 classes a week. So you show up every week, take one class one night, take the other class the other night. They meet from 6:30 to 9:30. There's always a dinner in advance where you can network and hang out with your buddies if you'd like. It does take about 2.5 years to complete the program, but you can accelerate it if you'd like. And the great thing that is true of all of these programs is that once you're done with the core, you can take electives at different times. So if you're coming at night and you decide, my schedule, it does not permit that, or I really want to take a class with another group, you can do so. You can come on the weekends. You could actually come in the day and take classes with full time. And so that holds true for all of our programs. We really want our students to interact with each other. Not only does that create a richer experience, but it enables you to develop your network. The weekend program is, again, 92 units. It meets every other weekend with a few exceptions, but it's 5 weekends a quarter. You're taking 3 classes a quarter versus 2. So you do get out a little faster. It's two years straight, 8 quarters. And again, you can take those electives at any time you'd like. And I actually think that's pretty cool because, you know, if you're on the weekend program and, you know, you're just sort of done, and you're like, I want my Saturdays back. You can do that for a quarter or more. And, you know, and that way you also get to meet other students. Finally, the full-time program is their traditional program that most people are familiar with. It's one where you're not working, you're attending class full-time, completely immersed program. It is the quickest. You're out in 6 quarters. Or, you know, typically it's a 2-year thing where you have a summer. And then these are just some of the deadlines. We have a few left. All of our programs have a deadline of April 1st, which is coming up. And we also have a deadline of June 1st. And the Flex weekend group, the Flex group has one more deadline in July, but it's, you know, I wouldn't wait that long just because the experience gets a little gnarly in the summer if you're trying to fit it all in. But we still do it, and you know, we welcome your application at any time. While we do have these deadlines, we will also review your file when it is complete. So if you get it complete on April 4th, we're not waiting to review it. We'll review it as soon as we can. And now I'm going to introduce our guest, the wonderful professor who has helped us, you know, earn our 4th spot in learning, Dr. Ayelet Gneezy. She is the Carol Lazier and Family Endowed Chair in Social Innovation and Impact, Professor of Behavioral Sciences and Marketing. And she is the director of the Social Impact of Innovation Initiative, as well as the U.S.-Israel Center on Innovation and Economic Sustainability. She has been quoted, she has been featured in, you know, just about every major reputable publishing, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Scientific American, Huffington Post, and the Atlantic. She's been published in Science, in the PNAS, which I had to actually look up. That is the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, which is a peer-reviewed journal of the National Academy of Science. And so that's pretty big stuff. The NS, you know, the NAS is a big deal. She's also been published in Marketing Science, Journal of Marketing, Journal of Consumer Research, and many, many others. And I thought this was an amazing fact. I don't know if she knows I found this, but she's been cited by, I mean, over 2,700 times by other researchers, which to me, not only, you know, solidifies what we think of as a lasting impact, because that's who we are at Rady, but it also demonstrates the scope and the relativity of what she's doing and how it affects people, because that's just an amazing statistic. She received her PhD in marketing from the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business. And with that, I am going to hand over the screen to Dr. Gneezy. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Actually, it's more like almost 4,500 citations, but it's
well, that stat was old.
Right? No, it's fine. It's fine. I have the opportunity to brag, so I'm bragging. That's all.
Published so quickly, you know, even the internet can't keep.
No, I didn't know. I went immediately to check, like, to make sure. But it really depends who's counting. Yeah.
Right.
So your source.
I'll go with the 4,500.
That's okay. So hi everyone. So I actually didn't put give you a hint on how to pronounce my name, but you shouldn't worry about it unless you join us, and then come and introduce yourself, and then I will tell you how to pronounce my name. Generally speaking, it's Ayelet. It's an Israeli name. I was raised in Israel, lived there most of my life until I became an adult. I heard what Christina was talking about in terms of what you will learn at Rady, and what I added immediately something to my slide, and that is this. I hope we will teach you how to think. And we all think, we think all the time, we are taught how to think, but we can get better at it, okay? And if there's one thing that I feel that doing a PhD in the field that I did a PhD in gave me and continues to give me, because I have to, is exercise critical thinking. I just have to. If I don't do that, the minute I don't do it, I cannot publish, right? Or my students, my PhD students will not do well in the market. Market meaning finding a job at a good university. So the day I stopped making sense in that way is the day I should retire, preferably a day sooner, but that's never the case almost. So when I was asked to do the masterclass, it was a few months ago. Of course, I forgot, I said yes, of course. And then earlier this week, Christina emailed me, I ignored, she emailed me again, I ignored again, not because I was planning not to come, but just because I had a lot of things, on my plate.
I understand.
Sorry?
I completely understand. Yes, I know how busy you are. So we're very happy you could join us.
And I will tell you that one of the reasons I was busy is because the other Professor Gneezy, who is my husband, is launching a book next week. And we had a major event on Tuesday at Rady in honor of him, like the first text at the event for launching the book launch. Anyway, and I've been trying to think, so there were two ways I could go about today. There are probably more, but two main ones I thought about. One was give you kind of sample or a glimpse into how I teach when I teach. That's another story why when I teach. The class I've been teaching consistently until this year is a class on social entrepreneurship and social impact. And I could have done that, but I felt that maybe it's not the best way to go because that would be a 20, 30 minute, actually planned for an hour, but we can go shorter. That would be one topic that maybe does not interest everyone, right? And I didn't want to kind of, hone in on one topic and lose some people because of that. So instead, I decided to tell you about my research, and I'll give you a general kind of laundry list, which is not really a laundry list, but general list of generally what I'm working on. And then my plan is to tell you about 3 different projects that hopefully each of you, everyone in the room can find at least interest in one of those. Okay, and I will not go into very deep details on how we do the research and whatnot, simply because we don't have time. But as Christina mentioned, this is an interactive conversation. So if anything I said is unclear because I didn't speak clearly, or something about what exactly is going on is unclear, don't wait until the end. Okay, if it's important and you need to understand, just don't use the chat unless Christina wishes to monitor it. I'm never able to monitor the chat. If I do, that means I'm losing my chain of thought here. So
we will monitor.
And you can just interfere. You can just say, excuse me, and start talking. Okay, that's perfectly fine. All right. So my research. Generally, what I research everything I find interesting. It's not necessarily the best advice an advisor would give their PhD students. That's not the advice I received. And unfortunately, or not unfortunately, I'm interested in various things, not to begin with, but I might all of a sudden see someone doing something, or hear something, and I would say, oh, that might be interesting to research. And then I will start doing that without having thought about it before. For me, it's fun. And I think if you're not having fun in what you do, you won't be very good at it. So I try to stick with my passions. And I tried using my research mostly field experiments. The best parallel for most of you is A/B testing. Okay, so the idea, or like randomized controlled trials, for those of you who come from the medical field, but the idea is that we have a control treatment, which is, say, it will become interesting in a few minutes, but you have the control treatment, which is how things are done regularly. Like these days, say you send an email because you want people to join your website, okay, or click on a link. So we send the email that we usually send, and then we test another variation, which is the treatment or condition in which we change something in that email. It can be something in how we phrase the offer. It can be a visual. It can be additional information. It can be a variety of things. And after we do that, we can compare which one did better. Okay, and I will tell you that in my work, what we do, showing that one thing did better than the other, is usually not enough. What we are pushed to do, and I think that's one of the most interesting but also challenging parts, is understand why one is better than the other. Clearly, if we designed an intervention or a condition that to do, in a certain way we thought it will be better, it will do better than the control, but that's not enough. We actually have to show that what we thought might be going on or will be going on is actually happening. So that's generally speaking. Running experiments as opposed to just using archival data or existing data of various sorts is it allows us to make causal inferences, right? So if I'm changing X and then I'm observing Y, I can say, oh, because I changed X, Y happened. Okay, that's generally speaking. Okay, topics in general that I am interested in, all over the place, as you can see. I won't read any of these out loud. I will tell you that the ones that are underlined are the ones I'm hoping to have a chance to tell you about. It's not necessarily the ones I'm most excited about. It's not necessarily my best publications. The way I chose them is because I think these are things that, again, should be interesting to everyone in general. If you're a curious person, all of this should be, at some degree, minimally even curious. One of these, hopefully all of these will be interesting to you. What Christina mentioned, end of life and death, whatnot, this is under well-being all the way at the bottom. This is a brand new area of research I started doing, which I'm extremely excited about. I have no data to show you, but if you come, I will tell you more about it. So here's one more reason to come, maybe, or not. Okay, let me tell you about something that happened in October 2007. Radiohead, I don't know if some of you are familiar with the band, so it's a British rock band. Radiohead released its album, a new album. And unlike all its previous albums, this album was only available online, and it was only available using pay what you want. What does that mean? It means the following. You hear about the promotion or whatever, you go online. This is actually the in Rainbows. You can see the URL from their website. You see the URL. You download one. There's a one next to the download, and the total in pounds, because they're British, is empty. And there's a small question mark on the right hand side just here. So say that you clicked on the question mark. This is what it tells you. It tells you it's up to you. And maybe you're like, what? And you click the next question mark, and this is what you get. And it tells you, no, really, it's up to you. Okay, and you could pay anything from 0 to infinity. Okay. I won't run the poll, but I will tell you that as I'm not an economist, my husband is an economist, many people that I'm around are economists, and according to the economic rational or whatever actor theories, if the rule of the game specifies that you can get something for free, you should take it for free. Okay, it's very, very simple. That's what a rational individual would do. What actually happened, we don't have the data, but the estimates made by the variety of agencies and whatnot is that there were about 1 million downloads and about 40% individuals paid something. Okay, now something could be 25 cents, and we don't know the numbers, we don't know the distribution. What we do know that people, at the time, I believe maybe we had PayPal, but we didn't have like Venmo and whatnot, right? So people took out their credit card. 40% of people of 1 million did something, right? Yeah, entered the information and whatnot, and some specified an amount in order to get this. This is extremely interesting, extremely interesting. And we're interested, by the way, just to understand a bit about the culture at Rady, we learned about this by one of our IT guys who emailed it to one of us, who then emailed it to the rest of the people who are eventually ended up being on the paper. And that's how it happened, without just someone from IT emailing it to us, something that they thought would be interesting in. This wouldn't have happened probably. We approached Disney, never mind how that happened. That's like a full hour in and of itself. It took us 2.5 years to get the study approved, and we ran a study. And what we wanted to know in the study was essentially whether this was just a one-off, maybe something special about Radiohead, maybe about digital album, who knows, right? And we wanted to maybe try and start seeing, can you move this effect around, right? Can you play with it? So, by the way, before I go to that, others who have used Pay What You Want, Girl Talk, this is a DJ. If you know him or don't know him, if you like rock music, go and listen to him. He usually mixes other people's music, and he never released any album. He always made his, made money, or his income came from parties where he, he was a DJ. After he heard about Radiohead, he was like, "Oh, let me try this." So he took out of the songs, released an album, made $1 million, if I remember correctly. Pay what you want, completely. Okay, not even saying you have to pay 2 cents, right? Nothing. Pretty amazing for someone who otherwise would have made nothing, right? I mean, he would have made it otherwise, but not from offering this Pay What You Want. Humble Indie Bundle, they still offer, they sell bundles of digital goods, and those would be mostly video games or digital books. You can go and buy bundles of content using Pay What You Want. World of Blue is like a game, sorry about the noise. Online games, you can download it, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which used to Pay What You Want for a long time until there was a lawsuit against them because of that, and I believe now they limit it only to, I can't remember to whom, I don't want to say, unless there's someone from New York here, I'm not sure, but they followed this model for many years. So, Pay What You Want works. We don't think it works always. And as I said, we wanted to see what's going on and first of all, try to see if we can replicate the effect in a more controlled setting, and then trying to understand what's going on. Before going into that, I want to tell you about, and I will come back to that later for one of the other project papers, but something really, really interesting about the psychology of people, how people think. So imagine that imagine that I'm this, pencil person on the left-hand side, and I see someone going and recycling bottles or any containers, right? I see someone behaving that way. I assume that person really cares about the environment, right? And I can tell you as a side note, if that person cares a lot of recyclables, I'm saying, wow, they must really care about the environment. Or if I know that the person had to drive a long distance to recycle, I'm like, whoa, really, really must care, because the greater the cost to engage in the behavior, which is not a fun behavior in and of itself, the greater the signal, right? So that would be on the right-hand side of the title, this would be image. This would be image management or impression management, right? And that means that by acting in certain ways, I'm telling others something about me, usually something true. Not always. The interesting thing is that when I'm doing that, say that I'm now this guy, younger for sure, and I'm recycling, not only I'm telling others, oh my God, my animation is doing funny things. Not only I'm telling others that I care about the environment, I'm also telling myself, because why would I otherwise do that, right? So if I'm doing something kind to help someone, I'm telling myself, or I'm informing myself that I'm actually a kind person. That's one of the main reasons people actually engage in nice behaviors. It's clearly also because we care about others, right? So charitable giving, we give to charity or give to a panhandler because we want to be nice to them. But there's always this one piece of our consciousness that also wants to feel good about being nice. So we get some kickoff just, from being nice to others. Signaling to the self and signaling to others are two different things. Sometimes they might be in conflict. I won't go much into that. Sometimes they are at peace with one another, and sometimes they can cause a lot of problems. Okay, to us as individuals trying to decide how to behave. What I want you to take off this, and I'll get back to that, is the self-signaling. Okay, we'll get back to that. Okay. Skipping this one. Okay, Disney. So we ran our first experiment with Disney and Disney World. There's a number of participants, about 115,000 participants. We ran it at Epcot, and Epcot at the time, all the rides, so we did it at a roller coaster ride. And you go to a roller coaster, I don't know if anyone hasn't been to a roller coaster, even if you haven't, maybe you know that at some point during the journey, right, going up and down or just around, there's a camera that snaps an image of you, right? And then when you get off the roller coaster and you make your way to the cash register or to the shop or whatever, you can see your photo and you can decide whether you want to have it, to buy it. In the good old days, you actually went to the cash register, you said, this is my photo, and they printed it to you. Today, it's a whole different story with digital and whatnot. At that time, when we ran the study, which was 2009 or something like that, 9, published it 2010, but it took a long time. All the rides, except for one, were transitioned to digital, and meaning that no one knew what is the cost of a single photo to compare to when they came to our ride. And our ride was in like a relatively very boring ride, never mind, test track, if you know it, you know it, if not, also fine. And what we did, we had 4 conditions or 4 like groups in our A/B test, okay? The first one, which is the one here, this is our control with fixed price. So control with fixed price means that this is the price of the photo if we don't do anything, right? So this is how much Disney priced the photo for. Then we had a pay what you want, and a pay what you want was essentially switching and replacing the $12.95 with pay what you want. And we made it clear for people that pay what you want includes if you want to pay 0, okay? Then we had kind of this funny thing, and the funny thing said, if you can pay $12.95 and half of what you pay will go to charity. The charity we used was Make-A-Wish Foundation. We used Make-A-Wish Foundation because this is a charity that Disney chose actually, and it's a charity that is close to heart, or very, Disney and Make-A-Wish Foundation are like, almost one in many ways. And going with 12, like fixed price and 50 goes to charity, you can think of it as a corporate social responsibility campaign, right? Of sorts, right? It can be 25 go to charity, it can be 1 + 1, it can be all kinds of things, but this is one way in which one form of a CSR campaign. The last one group was 50% goes to charity, but 50% of what you choose to pay, what you want, right? So you can just decide you want to pay $2 for the photo, and then $1 will go to the charity. Okay, if you can decide you want to pay $100 for the photo, and then $50, sorry, I can do this math, goes to charity. And what we observed, the data we observed, so we ran each of these kind of groups for 2 full days. So we randomized our study by days. And we had 1 extra day for the pay what you want, but that's not really important. And what we observed were purchase rates, so percentage of people that purchased the photo, and how much they paid for the photo. And I will say that you could only purchase 1 photo per rider, right, each time. We do believe, or we are told we couldn't capture it because there's no way of knowing, that several people actually went back so they can get other photos, either for free or whatever, but those were not huge numbers. Any questions until now? Okay, cool. What did we find? So purchase rates and average price paid. Clearly in the $12.95 and $12.95 would half goes to charity. The average price was $12.95 because that's the price. The difference between 0.5% and 0.6% is not significantly different. In other words, CSR in this case, specific case, had no impact on the likelihood that people will purchase a photo. What happened when we moved to pay what you want? 8% purchase, and yes, 8% is much higher than 0.5%, and also from 0.6%. average price was 92 cents. Now, some of you will be very entertained, maybe all of you, to learn that 92 cents at the time was the precise marginal cost of printing a photo at Disney, which is pretty phenomenal. Okay, so on this, Disney made like zero profit, but it was also zero profit. What happened? We moved to pay what you want and half goes to charity is different. So we only had 4% of people buying the photo, which is half of what we had with the pay what you want. And if you look at how much they paid much, much, much more than $1, right? So more than 5 times than what they paid with the pay what you want. Now, this circle effect is not something we predicted, right? We thought, well, you tell people that they can get a photo for how much they want, and they can benefit a cause, a good cause. People will just, many more people will buy the photo than in any of the other cases, and they would pay a lot. So relatively, they paid a lot. I mean, relatively to 92 cents, but only half of them paid. And this was something that, we said, so there were like 4 co-authors on the paper, 3 of us academics, and we sat and we scratched our head pretty badly. And we tried to understand what was going on. The best explanation we could come up with, and then we tested it in other experiments, was the following. If you remember something I had on one of the previous slides before I got to describing the study, it said that a good person pays something, a bad person pays nothing. And this is what we thought had happened. So say that you're standing in line and you're being told to pay what you want. Now, by the way, at Disney, you know how much people want to pay? Exactly 0. And I was at Disney during the time we ran the studies. I was standing with the crowd, close to the line, and I heard how people talked about it. This is anecdotal, it's not evidence, but I can tell you what I heard. What I heard is like, don't worry, they're making enough money, right? They're charging us whatever, $10 for a cup of soda. They can absorb whatever, we don't pay, even if we take it for free. When it was pay what you want and half goes to charity, essentially no one spoke. So the line was half as long. It was silent, and you could literally see that people were kind of having a problem or trying to figure out how much to pay, because again, what they want to pay is nothing, but you cannot give nothing for children, right? Young children with terminal illnesses, because then you're really a bad person. So they trying to figure out what the right number is. And then one of 2 things could happen. One is that they're saying, well, $1 is not enough because they only want half a dollar to, children with cancer. And then they go up, and at some point they're like, well, this is just too much money for a photo, right? I can pay 50, or 20, but then, and that's okay to give to a charity $10, but then I paid for the photo $10 when I could get it for free. So I'm not interested. So this could be one thing that's happening. The other thing that could be happening is that just the process of trying to decide is so unpleasant that they just say, whatever, I'm just not gonna buy it. So they opt out of the opportunity or possibility to purchase. Either because they don't want to signal to the cashier that they're cheap, or they don't care about others, or because they didn't want for themselves to feel bad about not being generous, or both. We don't know exactly in this case. Just so that you have the numbers on average and cumulative and whatnot. In yellow, you have the contribution for charity, and in purple, how much Disney made. And as you can see, the pay what you want per go to charity was significantly better than either of these others. Okay. Now, if some of you are thinking, well, $12.95, they also made a lot of money, right? Because $12.95. I would say correct, but think how many people actually got a photo and went with the photo, which is a souvenir and a good memory, and took it back home with them to put in the fridge or whatever, right? So there's another value to the company just by the fact that I'm taking home something that will remind me how great my vacation at Disney was. And by the way, we had follow-up surveys with people as they left the ride, which Disney insisted on having just to make sure that the experience was not, the park experience was not undermined by experiment. On a 10-point scale, people's satisfaction with their vacations. The visit to the park the day is between 9 and 10. Like everyone is jolly, happy, and whatnot. Okay, I will just tell you, I will not go into details. I was going to skip the numbers here. We did a similar, conceptually, we ran a similar study in a whale-watching boat tour here. We compared $15, which was a fixed price, to $5 to pay what you want, and essentially we replicate the same finding. This is a whole different study. We also ran it in or replicated the effect in a restaurant in Vienna. That it's a buffet. Eat what you want, pay what you want. Eat what you can, pay what you want. And in that study, what we were able to find or to show that, and you're more than welcome to read the paper, the PNAS one, we were able to show or to provide evidence that suggests that what is driving payments is not your concerns about how others see you, others are seeing you, but more concerns about how you feel about yourself. So it was really more about the signal to the self. And I'm jumping very quickly on these two. Any questions? Okay. Other thing we found about pay what, yeah, sorry.
Dr. Gneezy, I have a quick question, and it's related to the Disney ride. And you said before that some of the people may have just preferred not to pay because they didn't want to feel bad about not giving to charity or giving too little to charity. But so what I'm hearing is that they feel better about themselves by not paying at all versus giving to charity, but just having it be a lesser amount than others say.
Yeah, not giving it all, but also not getting the photo, right? So it's not just not giving it all. It's actually not engaging, not having the transaction
I see.
at all. Yeah. Now, if
that made them feel better because they're like, well, I'm not giving to charity, but I'm losing something too. They're losing something because I'm not dedicating, but I'm losing the picture. Okay.
Yeah, I'm willing to sacrifice that because whatever, I don't want to give too little, right? Giving too little is that's a new project that I'm having now, but that's a whole different one. Yes. So
quick question, Ayelet.
Yes.
So just out of curiosity, how many people were there on the give half to charity group? You know, pay what you want, but give half to charity, who paid nothing and still took the photo?
I need to look at the data. I can't remember.
I'd be very curious about that because those are the people who be like, you know, in a sense saying, hey, I want something. I don't owe anybody anything, you know, like
right.
Psychologically, those would be the interesting ones to follow up with, I think.
Right, because there is, because saying even if the pay what you want and half goes to charity, saying I'm just not paying, almost kind of I have a principle, right? If I don't have to, I don't pay. Would feel a thing, or you could tell yourself some story about it, which would allow you to still feel okay with yourself with respect to the charity, but not in case you gave $1. That's already like, right? So, so there's something about giving too little, not giving anything. Maybe it's better because you can tell yourself some story, but giving little is just really, really bad. And I saw again, anecdotally, I saw when I was observing the line, in the pay what you want, the people just reached to their pockets and just gave whatever coins. No one took out a bill, like a paper bill, it just didn't exist. In the pay what you want to to charity, it was the opposite. No one reached to their pocket. Everyone opened their wallet. So, took out like, a bunch of, paper bills and paid with it. No one, and this is like a subtle difference. And that's why you have, when you run A/B tests, if it's not online, if it's like real people, you want to be there and you want to observe because you want to get some sense of the atmosphere and, things, by the way, that you don't notice. For example, the first day was a day, pay what you want day. And I'm there like, if I'm not part of the whole deal and I'm looking from afar and I'm seeing when the first people approach the cash register, you know how when you're buying something, you go to a cash register, say at Victoria's Secret or whatever, like Gap, people behind you can see how much you're paying sometimes, right? Because it is kind of, and like this small monitor. That would have not ruined the study, but then we would have had a very different pattern of behavior, we believe, right? Because if you see how much the other person is paying, right? Depending on the context or not in that context, with what we thought is this with the pay what you want, that if I saw that one person paid $1, I will pay like a bit less than that because I'm going to be less of a sucker than they are, right? Maybe with the pay what you want and I go to charity, it would be the opposite. If that person gave $1, I would give like $1.50 so I can feel better about myself. But either way, it would introduce noise into the data and not in a systematic way, right? Across all groups. So we stopped everything. We took like pieces of carton and we just covered the thing. I mean, we freaked out, right? Because what do? I mean, we planned it for 2.5 years. You can't just let it, go down the drain. But yeah, very exciting. This is we're talking about like more than 10 years ago. Each time I talk about this, I'm like so happy about it because it was really, I think this was in our field, the first large field experiment that anyone ran. That is not you run anyway with nonprofits that run RCTs. It was really, amazing. Anyway, other project probably I have until today like 6 projects on Pay What You Want. I'm not studying any of them by myself anymore because I don't think there's much to study, but sometimes someone would approach and say, oh, let's test whatever. So in one case, we found in one study, series of experiments, we find that if you compare Pay What You Want and Pay It Forward, so Pay It Forward would be, I'm coming to a museum and I'm told today is Pay It Forward day. Someone who was here before you already covered your admission and now you get an opportunity to cover the admission of the next person. People pay more under Pay It Forward than Pay What You Want. And what we, after many, many studies, we were able to figure out why this is happening, because when you think Pay It Forward, I'm more likely to think about how much others, I'm trying to guess how much others have paid, and people consistently overestimate how much others pay. And they pay that. So to the museum admission, I can tell you, the museum in San Francisco, and it has like a Pay What You Want of sorts on Tuesdays. People paid on average, I think, $1.2 Pay What You Want and $1.8 paid forward, which is a substantial difference. We had it also with sold mugs and whatnot. We showed that people pay more when you phrase the pricing mechanism as pay what you can versus pay what you want. The way we interpret the results is that this is driven because when you tell me how much, if you tell me pay what you want, I'm thinking more like a market transaction. It's more kind of a cold, emotion-free or emotion-poor transaction. When you tell me pay what you can, you're appealing to people's kind of kindness and you're asking them to pay as much as they can. Buying or purchase likelihood is the same. Okay, so the different wording doesn't influence, it doesn't affect how likely people are going. It is that people will actually approach you and buy the donut or the coffee, but it does matter. It does influence how much they're paying. Yeah, and that's essentially what we learned in our studies. The point here, people pay more when the payment is consequential. Any portion. So in one study, they buy, we sell at the entrance to a grocery store in Berkeley, reusable shopping bags, and we vary what percentage goes to charity. So it's pay what you want, and then it's either just pay what you want. So 0 goes to charity. We don't say it, but charity is not involved. And then 1%, 5%, 10%, 50, 90, 99, and 100. Okay. The only difference is between 0 and 1. And people pay just as much if 1% goes to charity or 100% goes to charity. Okay. Something to think about. I'm happy to entertain thoughts about it or questions if anyone has later. Okay. Any questions? All right. Time.
Actually, I have a question. Thanks for the very interesting studies. How generalizable are these to different cultures? Or you think it's only like limited to United States or the Italy that you mentioned?
That's a great question, actually. So I'm Israeli. I remember when I used to present the Vienna restaurant data, I would almost always say I wouldn't do this if I were in Israel, right? Or in Italy. I just don't think so. Surprisingly, Israel is pretty good about it. I can tell you, people run various experiments. Some people try to start a business that depends entirely on pay what you want. In Israel, in other places, in some places it didn't work out because they didn't succeed because they didn't understand the psychology behind it, right? So just doing pay what you want is not enough usually, right? There needs to be, if Apple did pay what you want, you know what will happen? We all go and we get laptops and we pay nothing, right? But if a small underdog, whatever, tried, maybe we would go and pay something, right? And compare Starbucks to your mom and pops or a neighborhood coffee shop. So not always it will work. In Israel, there is one of the things that people say about pay what you want is that because it's so risky and as a seller, you're very vulnerable, that the situations that lend themselves the most to using pay what you want are cases where your product has a very low or no marginal cost, right? So digital goods, they have zero marginal cost, right? Once you produce the album or, you have the books, it doesn't cost you to sell more, right? It's just as much. So with that in mind, in Israel, there's a high-end restaurant. I went there twice already, 3 times. You go in, they ask you if you have any allergies, then they give you their pitch, and they explain to you what they do. And essentially, food keeps coming, wine, good wine keeps coming. And at the end, you pay whatever you want. And they're still in business. And they've been in business at least 10 years, including surviving COVID. Now, after COVID, I visited them and I saw that they have like now a piece of paper in English and in Hebrew that explains a bit more, and you wanted to look at it so you really understand how important it is that you pay, but they never guilt you or make you feel that you have to pay, okay? It's just clear information in case when the server spoke with you, you didn't understand. I don't know how they're surviving, and can only tell you that when I left there the first time, the first thing I wanted to do is go and like tell everyone I know about it. And immediately I stopped myself and I said, okay, let's see which of the people I know I can trust to pay enough. So I was extremely selective in recommending the place. So one of my brother-in-laws, actually both of them, I never told them I went there. I never told them about it. Not because they're poor and they cannot pay, they just won't pay. They just will go. It's, one of them is the guy who goes to the grocery store and tastes all the olives. Yeah. From the bar. Yeah. This is the guy and I love him to death, but no, not trusting him with that. And I can tell you that there was an experiment in China that I think it was a relatively young couple decided to try and open a pay what you want restaurant. So, and restaurants and cafes that open this, oftentimes their philosophy is that, or their belief is that enough people can and will pay, and this way, right, we can offer food and drinks and whatnot to people who cannot pay, right? So you need to have we want to have a good mixture of both. This Chinese couple opened the restaurant. I believe that in a week they had to close. They just lost all their money. Everyone who came in just paid nothing. So no, I don't think it's in every place you can replicate the effect. I also don't think for any business or for any product, pay what you want cannot compensate for like bad products. Also, several restaurants try to like think of it as a promotion in order to bring people. No, if you bring people and they came because they heard pay what you want and it's appealing and everything, and then the food was not good, they're not going to pay, right? Or they're not going to pay a lot. So yeah, there needs to be like a package, but it's a good point. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have another question. Yeah, so the Disney study. So the age of your cases it should be pretty young. So, but in case of a restaurant, it's not, especially if it's a high-end restaurant, it's not. So it will be from a wide ranges, right?
In terms of ages?
Yeah, at the age ranges of people who participate in the study. So how do you think of it? Have you ever thought about, or like, what's the age group?
No, I don't think age is a big issue.
So is it age, or is it like, well, what I mean is like more about the maybe finance situation, or like the people.
So you have to think about it, right? So the Vienna restaurants, for example, the Vienna restaurant has it's located close to one of, I think, the Vienna University. So it's a central place. It has a lot of repeat customers, and a large majority are students, also faculty and tourists and whatnot. Repeat customers, which is a different question, which I still don't have data on. And people pay on average at the time, I think it was €5 per meal, about. And in Europe, you can get lunch for like $7. By the way, drinks were not included there, right? So they only had soft drinks and water and juices and whatnot, and those were, people paid for those. It wasn't, they didn't charge a premium because, to offset potential losses, those were market prices and everything. But people paid enough. When we had our intervention or experiment, never mind what it was, we increased payments a bit, substantially. I think it was from 5 to like 6.5, but not to like, a lot. That restaurant has been in business since 2006. And it's working. And I think, I don't have the data for the high-end restaurant. But according to my conversations with the owners, they never encountered any challenges, financial, right? And the people who go there are not, I think I'm of the oldest that go there. This is in a very hype, kind of cool area, the southern part of Tel Aviv. And I don't think you see there, to your point, I don't think we see their people, they see their people like in their 18, 20, 21, 22. But late 20 and up, you will see there, and people will just, make sure that they can pay. That's what I am. Anecdotal observations, okay? I want to be careful. Clearly, if I don't have money, I won't pay. I'm seeing there's a question, I'll get to you in a second. So Panera Bread, for those of you who know, it's like a chain of cafes that, offers soups and sandwiches and whatnot and coffee. So Panera Bread at the time had they opened many years ago. It was around the time we published our paper, a bit before, actually. Panera Cares. And Panera Cares it looked exactly like Panera Bread, but it was funded by and under the umbrella of their foundation. And when you went there as any person, you would order whatever you want. They had a price list. So they gave you a reference, which again, we can have a whole new different discussion on what that does. I can tell you generally, if you give me an anchor, like a reference price, you're protecting yourself, perhaps the likelihood that someone will pay $1 if the cost is $10 decreases, but also the likelihood that someone will be super generous and pay $50 because they just feel like being nice, or $20 goes. So everything, those who do pay are more kind of around the anchor. And I remember talking to their management at some point, and they said that their greatest challenge, and that I think that answers or relates to your point a bit. It takes them, at the end, I think they had, by the way, they went bankrupt. I don't know why, but I think at the peak they had maybe 8 locations, maybe 7. And he said that it takes them a long time to identify a location they feel is the right location, because they wanted the area to have a good mixture of people who need this, right? So, of people who will pay because they can pay and because they want to pay. So there will be enough of those in order to finance, right, to kind of cover the costs associated with allowing people who cannot, like food insecurity, right, and homeless people and whatnot, people who cannot have a warm meal or, a glass of milk, to come and actually get it for, for free. They went bankrupt. Maybe someone wrote an article about it. I don't know, but yeah, didn't work. And there was another question. I hope this answers your question.
Aldo had a question.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for walking us through these studies. My question is related to the approach. So earlier, and even just now, you mentioned anecdotal evidence and observations. I'm just curious about how, if in any way, did qualitative data inform your conclusions or your work in general?
So what do you mean quality of data?
So I mean, so right now you mentioned the anecdotal evidence with the disclosure of it being anecdotal. I was wondering if you went through any form of interviews or any way of capturing more of this, let's say the descriptive way that people were behaving and just sharing their thoughts with you in any way.
Short of getting into people's heads, yeah. So so there are various ways you can do that. For example, facial recognition. Okay, we have another study with Pay What You Want. I don't think will ever be published because the lead author, never mind. But he came up with this idea to do something, but we ended up doing something else. And what we did there, or the evidence that we have, so imagine people come to a theater. This was in Spain. So people walk into a theater, and it's a theater that is always sells tickets for Pay What You Want. It really, so this is what the theater does, always pay what you want. So imagine that you come. And let me see if I remember correctly. Yes, some people pay what they want at the beginning of the play, and some people pay what you want at the end of the play. Okay, and they know that they will play. What we capture and correlate is their their facial expressions during the play. So it was a comedy, and you were able to correlate positive emotions with how much. It's not causal, right? I mean, it is partially because we also have people that came before, right? So we know we'd have their facial recognition as well, right? So actually it is causal. We can draw causality conclusions. And then we observe, and what we find that people who smiled the most, pay the most, but only if there was a mismatch. So before they enter the theater, we ask them how much they think they're going to enjoy it, right? And the greater the positive difference between how much you expected to enjoy and how much you actually enjoyed, the greater your payments. Okay, and that kind of, and of course, no one didn't, but if you really expected to enjoy this much and you enjoyed it this much, yeah, you pay a bit less, which is really, really cool. I don't know why he's not working on it, but it's fine. I hope it helps your answer a bit, but there is, and you can do. The problem with field experiments is that we cannot ask questions, right? If you run a study in the lab, even online, sometimes you can later ask people questions. But when you run field experiments, it has to be the case that participants or people don't know that someone is monitoring them, right? That someone is looking at them. So it's really important that we keep it like very, very clean. But there are ways to get at it.
That's really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not getting to my other two projects, I can tell you that much. Any other questions?
I have one. It's just a curiosity, actually. I was wondering how this pay what you want would work in the luxury market, for example, where people are actually willing to pay for the value of the brand and the cost of the product itself. And when they buy something, they want to show that they can pay for that. So have you tried this segment?
So what market was it? I'm sorry.
Sorry, the luxury market, for example, fashion clothes like Gucci, Prada, people that actually buy these things to show that they can pay for that. So if they apply for this, would they be willing to pay more or less than the price itself? That was just a curiosity, actually.
Right. So I don't have the data. I don't think I will ever have the data because I don't think Gucci will ever let me run that study. But I do think there's something about people that are filthy and rich and have just too much. There is a subset of them that it's really important. You don't want to get anything on discount, right? You want to be the first to have it, but also being able to talk about, I don't think this is for self-signaling. I think this is really for like talking and bragging, being able to say, oh, I paid like $20,000 for a backpack. And you're like, well, I just saw Adidas shoes for $2,000 on eBay the other day. I'm like, and I think it says Gucci, and I looked at them and I'm like, yeah, same shoes. It's like, it's just yellow shoes, just yellow Adidas. Who buys that? I just don't know. But yeah, I can only understand some people, not all of them. I think there might be something there, right? That there will be a subset of people that it will be very important for them to pay a lot for something and maybe be in competition with others, right? So the competition I only talked about was to be lesser of a sucker than the person before you, for example, or just a bit more generous than the person before you. I think there are instances where people actually want show off with generosity, right? People show off with the charitable donations, right? Not everyone, but some people do. Wanted to show that they are more generous than others, which beats the whole purpose. The whole psychology of charitable giving is about warm glow and feeling good about yourself. Yeah, but that's a different story.
People that donate lots of money that will not reveal their name, they always seem to obviously like a very honorable person. And,
Right. There's
don't want
definitely
any recognition. Right?
there's anonymous giving, and there's a lot of that, but not that if it's people like us and you're choosing to pay to donate anonymously, it's usually because you're afraid maybe you didn't give enough, or maybe you're afraid that people will look, your friends will not understand why you're supporting a certain charity. So maybe it's kind of, unclear if it's socially in your circles acceptable. But very, like large donors, like, the people who do philanthropy all their lives or part of their lives, oftentimes will do it anonymously for a variety of reasons. One of them, I think it makes them feel better, because if you plaster your name on a building, then you don't really know for yourself. You cannot tell yourself that you're just doing this because you're a good person, because clearly part of it is because you want your name to be plastered on the wall. If you do it anonymously, you can tell, oh, look at me, $2 million nice, which you can do in the other ways. Yeah. Okay, listen, I have 2 more studies. We're not going to go there. It's fine. I won't send you or recommend you to read any of my papers. If there's any lecture of me online, please don't watch it. It's probably bad. But I'm happy to answer questions if anyone has. I believe none of you is applying for the PhD program, so that should be easy. But if you have questions about the program, about doing research while you're at the program or whatever, feel free to email me. I will get out in a second of this and will tell you that. You see how much I had to tell you? Yeah, this is my email address down at the bottom. And Christina can share it with you. If I don't answer, it's because I'm busy, so feel free to nudge and ask me again. Congratulations for choosing to continue your education. I think it's extremely exciting. I can tell you that I did my MBA when I was around 27, and I started my PhD when I was 35, like really old. And it's never too late. So congratulations on that decision, if it's at Rady or any other place. And yeah, I hope to see some of you next year.
Very much, Dr. Gneezy. It was incredibly fascinating. I'm sorry I talked. I should not be interjecting because I'm supposed to be the moderator, but it was just
Okay,
so
I'm already last time.
yeah, yes. So thank you so very much. And thanks everyone for coming tonight. If you don't mind, we are actually doing something new today, and we'd love to hear your feedback about the presentation. And if you have a chance and you're feeling charitable, would you mind scanning this and provide us a little bit of information for us? Obviously, it can be done in your leisure, no pressure. Just
Christina,
yeah.
you're not on the right slide.
Oh, I'm not? Okay.
No.
So happened to my, sorry guys, is that it?
Yes, we're back.
Okay. Something happened to I got kicked off in the middle of it, and I tried to come back on and I was like looking at a different screen. So I'll start over. If you're feeling charitable, we'd love it if you'd scan this and just provide a little bit of information about you and what you felt about, what you liked about this presentation. And that's about it. I'm going to leave it up for just a few seconds, and then, please go and have a wonderful dinner. And this was actually called a sip session. And so I drank my grape juice and La Croix, but hopefully you can go and have something a little more interesting afterwards. So if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to sign off, and thank you so much for coming tonight.